Hello, everyone. Welcome to Spoil Your Baby podcast. I'm so excited to have Carson Meyer here today. She is a doula and nutrition consultant and a new author. Just so exciting. Her book is just incredible. I just shared with Carson. I was going through it today to refresh myself, and every part I was like, yes, yes, yes. I love it. I want every single person who's thinking of having a baby, who's pregnant right now, or even in the early days of postpartum, or thinking of having a second baby, a third baby, whatever it is, to read your book. So, welcome. Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here, and the feeling is mutual. I was just sharing with Dr. Greer that so many of my clients, so many of the mothers in my community, that your book has been a huge just gateway for them in just bringing so much more joy and ease and like permission to follow their
Yeah.
instinct in early motherhood. So thank you.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear it. I think your book is like a prequel to my book. They
I
should
know
be
they're kind of
together.
like besties. I feel like they go really good together.
They really, really do. Honestly, just so excited about everything you have in there. Yeah, I feel like one of the biggest like feelings I had while I was looking at your book was that it's probably one of the first entry points, I think, that's just almost perfect to give a mom and or family that's expecting, to get them to see birth for what it is, right? There's this mainstream path that people go down, and then there's all of us doulas and midwives and birth professionals here saying birth is so much more, and you deserve so much through the experience, and so does your baby. So thank you for this incredible resource and putting it into the world.
Thank you.
Yeah. How was the process in writing the book for you?
It was really wild that it came to be the week my daughter was born or due. I remember getting the email from Chronicle right as I was about to give birth, and I
Wow.
was so excited because it's always been a dream of mine to write a book. And it was my first time becoming a mother myself, and I was like, "Oh, I really want to honor the sacredness of postpartum and take, my time and rest and kind of."
Yeah.
And so it came into my life. I don't think there's any mistakes in that that it came at this time. So all I know of my first 2 years of motherhood has been working on this book. And so at the same time, even though that has been deeply challenging at times,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
um,
I
I
imagine.
don't know if I could have written this book at any other time because it's so raw in real time in the moment as I go through my own early years of motherhood, that I'm really grateful. And I feel like because of that, it came through me in a way. But
Yeah.
looking back, I'm like, how the F did I do this?
Because it's like having another baby. You had
Yeah,
twins.
I had twins. But yeah, so it was a trip, and it's been even really interesting watching myself attempt to slow down now that it has been birthed. But kind of my brain reattaching to the book as like, what is life without writing this book in
For
motherhood? So
sure.
that'll be an interesting like integration for me. But yeah, I'm so grateful that it came at this time.
That's so beautiful. I think it wasn't a mistake either, because having all of that, everything's so fresh, and that you were
Remember
experiencing it
motherhood. That's like what it does to your brain, right? Makes you forget every phase so that you can be
completely.
present in the new one. So yeah, it's looking back at it. I was like, I don't even remember that what I wrote.
That's amazing. And you're a doula as well. So how long have you been doing doula work?
So I've been a doula for almost a decade now. Um,
Incredible.
and the way that I've worked has kind of changed over time. I was attending a lot of births out in Los Angeles, 3 to 5 a month. And then when I was ready to start a family, I knew that I couldn't sustain that. And in 2020, when doulas were no longer allowed in the hospitals, my mentor, Lori Bregman, who I'm sure you know,
Yeah, I love Lori.
a lot, yes, the greatest online and creating community circles. And she's like, you got to do this. And it was such a big learning curve for me. It was something I was not, I had never really done before, would teach in communities. But I created the Growing Together Circle in 2020 and had about a group of 20 to 30 women at a time, and we would, knowing that they might not have my support or any birth
Right.
support in the hospital, I just taught them everything, like more than they ever thought they even wanted to know about preparing for birth and postpartum, so that they could really become their own best advocate in that
Yeah.
setting. And it's been so fulfilling. I've learned so much. I absolutely I like the community aspect of it has been so beautiful. And so I do attend births on occasion in North Carolina where I live, but it's been a really beautiful way of like doing what I love to do, working with women, being in community, and honoring the fact that I'm still co-sleeping and can't really leave my baby all night.
Yeah. I love it. So do you still have that community ongoing?
Yeah, we every like a few circles a year, and they're 11 weeks long, and we walk through, it's, any time in pregnancy you can join, but we walk through all of the creating the birth intentions, what to expect in the hospital or home setting. We go over nutrition, we go over breastfeeding, postpartum, relationships, and that is the framework and like inspiration for the book.
Incredible. Wow. I will definitely be sending people to
Yeah.
your group. It's incredible. I mean, even if people have a doula who is going to come to the hospital
Yeah.
with them or the birth center or home, I feel like that kind of intense reflection and preparation that goes way usually beyond the scope of a typical doula service,
Yeah,
right?
I find that like every doula, because I mentor doulas too, like some doulas, their thing is education, like that's what they're
Yep.
big on. Others, that's not really where they find their strong suit is, and so they'll recommend their clients take a childbirth education class, and yeah, it's a great addition to having a doula.
I love it. I love it. So in your book, you have just so many incredible resources. It's divided up into all the trimesters. So first, second, third, fourth. It's common. I feel like it's pretty common, even if people who are kind of, educate a little bit educated in birth, they are going to have a doula, probably to mostly be thinking about this stuff closer to the end, I would say would be like on average. So I just love how you have so many nourishing lessons and practices throughout. Should we go through the trimesters and sort of maybe highlight some of the things that you love to teach?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's start with the first trimester. I think most people, I mean, if I think of the first trimester, I think about just being nauseous and trying to get through the day. What are some things that can nourish people during that time?
Yeah, so I mean, when I think of the first trimester, I also think of it being quite lonely.
Yeah,
Because if you think about it, a lot of women don't feel like they can tell anybody until they're 12 weeks. And it's still, I had a friend call me yesterday and literally tell me she was pregnant before even telling her husband. And just
yeah,
that feeling of like, even when you're, trying and expecting it to happen, how it's just the wildest feeling in the world to find out you're pregnant and sit with all of those feelings.
yeah.
And so
I
in
mean,
those,
you challenge so many things in your book. I feel like, would we challenge that? Like, should we be telling the people we trust and love and knowing that something, whatever the outcome is, they're still going to love us and take care of us?
yeah. So I have two, and I write about this in the book. I kind of have two perspectives on this. One is, there's such a sacred intimacy of the first trimester and of that time before, because you probably aren't showing too much yet. You may notice your boobs are changing, your body's changing, you feel it, but no, you go to the grocery store and no one else is going to notice that, right? And so I
Yeah.
think there's actually something really beautiful in, for if it feels right to you, in keeping it close,
Yep.
having this kind of this intimacy between you and your partner, and waiting until you're ready for it to become a celebration, and knowing that when you do share it, you're going to become inundated with other people's opinions and thoughts and
Yeah.
perspectives in this. So I
That's
always say,
true.
like, there's no right or wrong. And for me, it felt really good to just kind of like hold it and let myself process and like, sit with my own feelings about it before it becoming grandma's feelings and aunt and uncle's
Yeah.
feelings
I
and
love
everything.
that point of view.
I
Yeah.
love that. And I think in a culture that's so uncomfortable with loss and death
Yeah.
and disappointment, that, if the reason not to share is simply only because we just don't want to feel let down or let other people down, or we don't want to feel vulnerable when things don't go as planned, but simultaneously you want sisterhood and support and comfort, and you want people to be there with you, then
Hmm.
there's no stigma around sharing early. and that in sharing early, if that's what you need in order to have that support, actually helps to break away at the shame and the loneliness of miscarriage too.
Yeah.
And
Because a
so
lot of people aren't sharing loss either.
yeah. So there's no right way in my book, and I think there's beauty to both.
Yeah.
I
I
know a
love
lot of
that.
people like really, really want connection early. They really want to learn and they want to talk about it and they want to be in community with other women who are going through it, but feel like there's a taboo element to it. And I also talk on the book to another, like one of the first chapters talks about this. Aside from sharing the news, I also think that sometimes we struggle to connect with the baby or with the process until we're given this green light from an ultrasound or from
Hmm.
some sort of expert that tells us we're in the clear. And so
Yeah.
in the book, I invite women to just be present and know that it's okay to feel that love and that joy and that excitement in the moment because everything in life is fleeting ultimately, and
Yeah.
to try and let that sink in as early as possible to feel that connection, and that it's okay if that pregnancy doesn't work out, and to still feel all of the feelings of what motherhood is.
Yeah. I think so many of us are not prepared for how bumpy the road can be, how messy it can be, all of it, right? Just not only the conception part, but
Yeah.
every single step of it, right? And I think when we share it more, it helps so much. I had someone close to me recently. They had a few losses before they became pregnant, and they're kind of person who does take a lot of support from others, and so really shared it with a lot of people in their life, and everyone in their life said, "I had loss too. This is
Yeah.
what it was like for me," and my friend was so just did feel so supported to be held with others, but also she was really taken aback. Like she was like, wow, no one told me they
Mm.
had gone through these things, right? So it's an interesting like conversation to have with yourself, I guess, right? Of what's right for you.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no right or wrong in that. So that's one of the
Yeah.
first semester I kind of, talk about how we can, seek support, and then every week there's an activity and a reflection. And so there's letter writing to your baby, things that can also help you in those early weeks when it just doesn't feel real. It feels just such a wild feeling to help
Hmm.
you integrate and sit with those big feelings and process that and look at some of the fears that we have like been conditioned to believe around birth. And I also talk about, as you said, nutrition. I address some nausea remedies and how even before, for some who do experience morning sickness or just all day sickness,
Hmm.
prior to any of those feelings, this is a great time to be taking your prenatals and focusing on balancing your blood sugar and trying to nourish yourself as much as possible. Because if that time does come where you have food aversions, to not be hard on yourself, to just follow what you need in that time,
Yeah.
trusting that you've had the reserve build up before and that when that passes, you will replenish yourself after. And so moving into the
Yeah.
second trimester, I talk a lot about nutrition, with the assumption that many women get this burst of energy in the second trimester, kind of feel like they come out of that, they maybe are showing and sharing, and it's a great time to be moving your body, to be creating community and connection with other moms, to be
Mm.
really diligent about the proper nutrition. It's also a wonderful time in that second trimester, never too early by the way, but to be learning, to be doing, to reading, taking
Yeah.
class, really understanding your options. It's never too early and never too late to learn these things, but it's not super fun when you're like a couple weeks from giving birth and all of a sudden like, wait,
Yeah.
this is
Panicky. Like, where's my baby gonna sleep? What's
exactly.
everything
So
gonna look like? Yeah.
first, second trimester is really an optimal time for that. And then third trimester, assuming you have uh, in the second trimester really taken that time to learn about your options and set yourself up for support. Ideally, in the third trimester, we're dropping out of the head, coming into the body, closing the books, and trying our best to slow down and step into the part of our brains that birth operates from, which is
Yeah.
not the physiological part, right? It's not the thinking part. It's a full body experience led through the heart, led through the right brain, right? That the creative brain. And I
Mhm.
always, in my book, like the activities become more of like draw, dance, create birth art, write a poem, go be in nature. I also really believe, and I say this speaking for myself and my own experience, but in a world where we're so fast paced, and it's kind of what I was referring to about my book, right? With women just having so many wonderful roles in our world now, that there's a really fast pace that can be really challenging to just stop one day the next, right? And
Yeah.
motherhood, really early motherhood, really requires us to practice that slowing down for more ease
Mhm.
postpartum. And so I think it's beautiful if you have the opportunity to integrate that in the third trimester. It's going to make for an easier postpartum, because it's like a car going 100 miles an hour and then you're slammed on the brakes one day to the next, but your mind is still going to keep going
Yeah.
really fast, but your body and your life and your routine is going to slow down tremendously.
Yeah. I love how you highlight some of that artistic expression and reflection in throughout pregnancy, because it also sets people up to possibly be in that kind of routine for when baby comes too,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So I feel like so many of us in this world are, so much of our focus is like, for postpartum moms is like, how can we take care of you? How can you have some time for you? And because it's really hard, right? Your brain is totally focused on the baby, but so much of our well-being is tied to baby's well-being too. So I love that, those parts. I wish I had more of that during my pregnancy. It would be so beautiful. So then baby comes. We have the
Baby.
fourth trimester.
Yes, and then there's the fourth trimester, which in the book I call Earthside, and that is, I feel like so many books and just the way we talk about it is with the 6 week or 40-day timeline. And different cultures have different definitions of postpartum. We know that there is really no end to postpartum,
Yeah.
and that brain changes remain for much, much longer than 6 weeks. But in the book, I go first 100 days, which is about first 14 weeks postpartum. And the reason for that, there's a few reasons. One is because that brings us to a complete year from conception. And for
Beautiful.
me, I felt a lot around that. Like I remember my daughter being at the 100th day of motherhood and it coinciding with the day that I conceived her, or the week I conceived her. And I really believe that when we perceive motherhood or start to define motherhood as the start of conception, we create a confidence in mothers on the other side where they're not like, oh my
Beautiful.
gosh, now I'm a mom. It's like, no, you've been mothering for 9 months,
Yeah.
but from the innate wisdom within you. And you've been
Mhm.
doing it in your sleep. You've been doing it without any thought at all. And then we have the shift when the baby's born. They're like, oh my gosh, like, how could I ever be qualified? I know nothing of what to do. But you're like, you've been doing this for 9 months. You have been mothering and nurturing in a very different way. And
Mm.
so I love that the book is the first year of motherhood, not in what we normally define as that first year, but
Yeah.
yeah, if we're counting from conception, like the full first year, including womb motherhood. So that
Wow.
100 days I thought was really cool that that coincided with that year. And I also remember being at 6 weeks and just, even though I was a doula, I knew very well that it was going to take a lot of time for me to, feel any sense of like going back to myself. If you ever really do go back to yourself, which I don't
Mhm.
think we fully do. But at 6 weeks, I still had these assumptions that like my jeans were going to fit again, or I'd be ready to have sex again and I'd be ready
Mhm.
to work out the same way I used to. And I knew better. Like I knew that that wasn't always the case, but I still had it in my mind that
Yeah.
6 weeks was this magic week that changed things. And it didn't. It
Mhm.
came and went. And so I wanted to give a little bit more time, because for those who are maybe thinking in terms of 6 weeks or do have that checkup with their doctor where they're clear to have sex and, go
Mhm.
back, they're like they've graduated, that then there's time from that point, or maybe they're thinking about going back to work. Like there's points from there on where it's like, okay, now that we are moving through that trimester and into the next phase, how do we how do we integrate that? What does it look like to be maybe getting out of bed and leaving the house more and not, I was doing abhyangas every day and like I didn't leave the house for 40 days. But what does it look like to
Mhm.
mother when you do leave the house all of a sudden and when
Yeah,
you are out in the world past those first 6 weeks?
absolutely. I remember like going out for a walk in the carrier for the first time, being like, this was a huge milestone.
Oh my gosh,
I
the
went and
first
walked
carry
around the
walk.
block.
Yeah. I remember that too. Or the first car ride where you're just like, oh my gosh, this is wild.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's so beautiful. I love it. I love it so much. So let's talk a little bit about the nutrition, because I feel like that is something that's been coming up quite a bit for me. And I think, the same way that like general self care, nervous system care, rejuvenation care, whatever we call it, to like fill mom's cup, to, make her feel better, right? Make her feel rejuvenated, charge her battery. Nutrition often is not mentioned, but it has been coming up quite a bit in my life lately through different people I've been talking about. And so tell us a little bit about the importance. I feel like most of the info I've been getting lately is postpartum and
Yeah.
how it can really, the sort of the postpartum depletion kind of conversation, and how even just some of the depletion can lead to like mood issues, right? Some anxiety, depression, and other things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, share a little bit with us.
Well, there's such a big shift that happens postpartum around nourishing and feeding your baby. And that can be all consuming. And we put so much focus and there can be so much stress around that learning curve and that new experience. And then we forget, and as mothers, as those who are taking care of mothers, just the value of the mother being nourished, not only for that breastfeeding relationship and for the baby's nutrients and needs and milk supply and all of that, but exactly what you're saying for mood stability, for recovery, for all of it. And also for anybody who already has a toddler or even an infant or any baby like knows that like so much of our mood can be dictated by blood sugar,
Oh
right?
yeah.
we,
Oh
we
yeah.
see it as parents, we say it, oh she's hungry or oh you had sugar, but then we forget that we are just the same little animals, right, that need
Yes.
that. And
Yes.
I know for me that is the and not, I want to say easiest because it takes effort to nourish ourselves when we're parents, but it is the most sure and reliable way for maintaining stability, mood stability, for me as a new mom, especially with those sleepless nights,
Mm-hmm.
co-sleeping, breastfeeding through the night. I mean, I remember waking up when I was breastfeeding and just like I could just eat an entire animal right now. Like
Completely.
primal hunger when you are giving so much through your body.
Yeah.
Breastfeeding requires more protein than in pregnancy. And we are giving so much. Our bodies are so wise evolutionarily. It knows like give to the baby, give to the baby. And so we really owe it to ourselves and to our children to be caring for what we need to feel strong and replenished. And um,
Yeah.
those sleepless nights, a huge difference when you start the day with protein and you prioritize balanced meals throughout and getting
Yeah.
enough.
I love it. You have some great recipes in the book, which I think are amazing, and some teas as well, which are fantastic for getting some of the minerals and things that we need. Um, is there one tip you can share with moms? Maybe they're, preparing for this time, just a way that they can prep. Like what's a
Yeah,
good tip for them?
great question. So I have a couple. One is, well, I talk about the four pillars of support, which is rest, nourishment, touch, and support. And for the nourishment one, it falls into the support category. But when we live in a culture where other people don't really know how to support new parents. It's not part of our vernacular here. We don't
Mm-hmm.
have traditions around postpartum. And so when people ask, how can I help you? Or can I come visit the baby? Like really not being afraid of asking for that as a way of showing up, right? When family comes to visit, maybe you send them some recipes from the book, or from another great, postpartum recipe book that you love, print them out. So regardless of if you have a hired postpartum doula who's supporting you. Have these conversations prior about what kind of nourishment is going to fill you up. It's going to make you
Mhm.
feel good. Talk to your partner about it. Create a plan. A deep freezer is a great investment, because not only can you stash your milk in there, but also you can have frozen foods if you do meal delivery, and which is a great option for postpartum, depending on your support. I cooked a lot of foods before birth, and then, I have to give credit, my husband did because he's an excellent cook,
Nice.
and that's how he just shows love and nourishment. But put them in mason jars, froze them, and then we're able to just defrost them as needed.
Mhm.
Making sure that, setting up a meal train, but being specific about those needs
Yeah.
is so helpful. And just not expecting, if you're the cook of the family, or if your partner is not expecting to be able to fulfill that role in the same way that you used to. So to
Yeah.
really, really plan ahead and outsource as much as you can.
I love it. I love it. I always mention this. It's probably on this podcast already, but some of my best friends got me a few days of Mother Bee's food post when I
Great.
was really early postpartum. And I swear I will never forget it. It was like the best week of my life. It was only a few days, but I was like, I feel like a queen during this time. Just, so there was so much love in the food and it was so nourishing and just beautiful, all of it.
You do
So,
not have to think about it. I mean, as a new mom, you're already like, the time just goes by. You're so, invested in all of your baby's needs that it's so easy to skip meals and forget.
yes.
And to have
Yes.
it already be thought of and ready is such a gift.
I love it. I love it. Do you have a copy of your book that you can show us? Amazing. Growing Together. Oh my gosh, you guys, I love this book. Please go out and get it if you're pregnant, if you're thinking about it, get it for your friends. I honestly, Carson, it's like the perfect book. It's
Wow, thank you
amazing.
so much.
I absolutely love it. Thank you so much for being here and sharing with us. Where
Yeah.
can people find out more about you and your classes
Yeah,
and stuff?
the book can be purchased anywhere, Amazon, your favorite indie bookstore, retailer. And then my website is carson-meyer.com. And that's where you can learn about the circles and other offerings as well. Yeah, and the book is called Growing Together.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here. I'm
Thank
excited
you
to
so
see where
much.
this goes. Yeah,
Thank
thank you.